there was this year published a history of the American Revolution written by Dr. David Ramsay of South Carolina. In it, in his preface, he makes some curious reflections upon the discovery of America. He notes that the right of discovery, as we all will acknowledge, can only accrue to those who discover unoccupied lands that belong to no one. But that cannot be said of America, that all the American lands were occupied by people who had lived here for centuries, and that therefore the European powers had no color of claim to those lands, no right of discovery, that they simply seized what did not belong to them and carved up the spoil amongst themselves on the specious pretext that they, being of the correct religion, had a right to do that to those that were of a false religion, as though God were not the God of all mankind, but only the partial God of Christians. However much we may deprecate that superstition and hope that we are more enlightened today, the fact is that this is precisely what the European powers did, and we must now consider the consequences. And considering that also, Dr. Ramsay mentions Christopher Columbus. He says, when we consider the consequences of Columbus's discovery, when we consider the great floods of gold and silver that poured from the New World into the Old, the stimulation that gave to commerce and trade, the increase in geographical knowledge and knowledge in general, the transformation of manners, etc., that all of that brought about, why then we might look upon Columbus as one of the greatest benefactors of mankind. But when we look upon the fate of the indigenous inhabitants of America, many of whose nations were exterminated utterly and whose names are heard no more, when we consider the misery and mortality among the first settlers in America and all that they suffered, when we consider the slavery of the Africans, which America gave a market to, and all the wars fought in Africa for the taking of slaves, to the bringing of it to America, and all the sufferings of those people, we see such a great crowd of woes accumulate that we may perhaps come to the conclusion that the evil consequences of the discovery of America far outweigh the good.